Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Roly of Roar. Roly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
I grew up in New York. I'm from Long Island. I grew up in a town called Cold Spring Harbor, and pretty normal childhood. One of four boys. Um, Mom took care of us, and my dad was a clothing designer.
Nice. Growing up, what were some of your interests or aspirations? Were you into athletics or maybe entrepreneurship with lemonade stands? What was that like?
No lemonade stand.
Yeah,
Yeah, grew up, played sports, played hockey, lacrosse, soccer, usual stuff. Loved to like skateboard, snowboard, that side of sports were really fun. We did a lot of that with my brothers. We had a house up in Vermont that we were constantly going to. And then, video games, regular
yeah.
stuff.
Going through school, I saw you eventually went on to Boston University. What led you to going there, and then what did you study there as well?
Um, I loved the city of Boston. My brother had gone to Boston College, so when
Mm,
I would go up and visit him, it was just a place that I definitely knew I wanted to go to college. And I liked the idea of going to school in a city, not on traditional campus. So that was really the main point behind it. Just great education, obviously, as well. But from just a student experience side, I liked that it was a big school. I liked there was a lot of kids there. It wasn't
mm,
small and kind of confined. And when I was there, I studied international relations.
mm. With that, what was the outlook on post graduation? What did you end up doing there? What did you want to do in the first place? Stay in Boston or move away? What was that like?
I wanted to come back to New York and live in the city. I
Mm,
think when you grow up around New York City, but living in the suburbs, there's always that desire to move to New York City eventually. So wanted to do that. And at the same time, also wanted to explore and get out a little bit. So my focus with international relations was Middle East and Asia. And when I did leave Boston, I actually worked for another beverage company and helped manage their Asian business. So I got to spend a lot of time between a few of those markets.
mm. For with that experience, did you have to relocate, or was that a remote position where you stayed in the city? Or
It was kind of a hybrid. I lived in the city, but I spent a decent amount of time between a few of the different countries that I was managing,
mm,
and back and forth, which was great when you were in your 20s.
yeah, for sure. Getting into Roar, I mean, so you entered a beverage industry. I'm not sure if it's the same sector, but what led you to starting Roar, and especially getting into your own CPG business?
Just loved the idea of owning my own company.
Mm,
Also, just really loved the beverage business in general. I thought it was so interesting. I thought that the brand that I had worked with previously was an iced tea company, and I
mm,
was never a big iced tea drinker. I used to love Gatorade. That was really like my go-to drink all the time.
yeah.
And for me, I've always been a fan of product. Like I'm a kind of a product junkie when it comes to packaging, flavor, formulation. Those are things that really are important to me.
Mm,
So I just saw this opportunity, especially as I was drinking a lot of Gatorade, that the ingredients weren't that good and the lifestyle was kind of stale and really focused on baseball and basketball. But all these brands like Monster and Red Bull were making huge waves looking at these more self-expressive sports, snowboarding, the extreme sports of the world, and doing really fun activations with that. So for me, I wanted to kind of bridge the gap between those drinks and the functionality of a sports drink. And that's really what the
mm.
original idea behind Roar was.
Yeah, starting out at launch, what was that prototyping process looking like? So, I mean, getting functional ingredients, but also tasting great. What did that look like from your POV?
Yeah, it was, well, taste was paramount. Company I worked with before really kind of ingrained that it's got to look good and it's got to taste good. Functionality is also really important, but it shouldn't be, hey, I'm going to sacrifice taste because this has so many great functional ingredients. There's so many amazing ingredient technologies out there that you can really get everything you want if you work hard enough on it to make it taste good.
Yeah.
The original prototype, the original brand of Roar was way more of a sports drink. Like we had camouflage bottles, it was bold neon colors, very, very fun, sporty forward versus now where we're raw organic, and it's really evolved into much more of a wellness but still really self-expressive lifestyle brand.
Mm. Starting out, did you guys launch D2C or what did that look like? How long did the prototyping to launch actually take? And then how did you launch then?
When we started, beverage D2C wasn't really a thing. I still
Mm.
think beverage D2C is a very
Yeah,
difficult lane to launch a ready to drink beverage. I think
for sure.
powders and things like that are great, but just due to the nature of weight and shipping costs, it's
Yeah.
very prohibitive. Especially when you're kind of doing it yourself. You're not big enough to be fulfilled by Amazon yet, so we had a D2C business, and what the D2C business was me going to our warehouse and with a tape gun and a bunch of boxes, folding them and packing them up every day after work for a couple of hours before the UPS guy would pick them up. So it was
Mm.
very high labor intensive. It
Yeah.
was something that was fun, and it's always encouraging to have people that maybe don't live in the area where you're really distributed in want to try the product just based on word of mouth and social media. But it's definitely a difficult way to build a ready to drink beverage company.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned after work and like a manual process, doing it yourself as well. And I like to hear about the transition from your career and then getting into the founding story. But were you working a job at this time still, like while running
No,
Roar?
when I started Roar, that was it.
That was
There
it.
was no plan B. It
Got
was
it.
really before the warehouse I was talking about. The warehouse was my mom's garage. Like that was the first warehouse,
Yeah.
and it was an operation that really our only assets were my mom's garage, a van, and a couple of my friends and I selling drinks up and down the street.
Wow. That's incredible. So at launch, what did that look like for bottling Roar then? Did you have a co-manufacturer? What did that look like?
It was difficult. I mean, not a lot of co-packers really are built to handle small scale runs.
Yeah.
And when we were first starting out, the full shrink sleeve bottle wasn't as common as it is now. So it was not just difficult from finding a co-packer, but from finding a label manufacturer to finding a person who had the right type of steam tunnel that could label the products properly.
Mm.
Um, but it was luckily a lot of the suppliers I started with, we still work with now, even as we scaled the brand to a much larger place.
Yeah.
So finding good people at good companies from an early stage is something I was really fortunate to be able to do.
Yeah, for sure. Starting out, marketing side of Roar, I mean, this is pre D2C as you mentioned as well, but uh, how did you guys market? What did you find that performed well? Was an influencer in-store sampling? What was that?
Um, you know, influencer would have been nice. It still wasn't quite that era yet. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking like 2014, 2015. So we were in the earlier stages of that influencer economy.
Yeah.
For us, especially because I'd come from a brand that was really built by, hand-to-hand street distribution, that was really our marketing. And getting at the store level, it was just going for a display, not just a placement, getting cold box, not just a warm placement, letting us
Mm.
put some point of sale up and run some sampling and some demos. And then from a pull standpoint, as far as getting the product off the shelves and getting people to look for it, at that time we were very demo and sponsorship heavy. So if there
Mm.
was a local gym or sports field or ice rink, whatever it was, we were out there handing out drinks, talking to coaches, talking to parents, sending product to people, sponsoring teams. And that's really what created the initial pull for the product.
Mm.
It's also one of the things that led me to evolve the product away from a sports drink, is how difficult it was to market towards kind of a youth sports customer. They're just, because they're not usually the one making the purchase at the retail level.
Yeah, so touching on that transition, what if you can put into your POV, like what was the stance of Roar before? Was it just hydration and like what did that transition to? Like health minded kind of
It
outlook?
was the same stance, to be honest. It was just a different customer. From the beginning, Roar was about, putting your style out there, about having really fun, personality infused packaging,
Mm.
bold colors, bright colors, and really leaning into lifestyle, not just the functionality of the hydration. I think it was something we always liked and we still like today, is that we were never tied to just one function or one ingredient, which
Yeah.
allowed us to really not just evolve our customer, to evolve our formulas too, without kind of losing where we came from. But when you look at it now, it was the same thing. It was just for a different customer. I think what I realized is, especially kind of watching, at the time she was my girlfriend, now she's my wife,
Mm.
just watching her style and her taste change. And there was that moment where all of a sudden brands like Lululemon and On Running and all those brands overtook or became cooler than the Nikes and of the world. And
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, like, wow, like you look at these companies, their colors are bolder, the fitness classes people are going to are more specific, more fun, more on brand with their lifestyle. And
Mm.
I just saw that there was an opportunity to bring a true hydration product to that customer that really embodied more than just the functionality and the vitamins and the ingredients, which we
Mm.
worked painstakingly on to make sure they're great, but also just something that you felt like could identify with you. And I think
Yeah.
at the time, the most popular, I'm a millennial, the most popular kind of millennial or maybe a little bit older than us beverage were brands like Bai.
Yeah.
And they were having a huge moment, but it was white label, fruit on the label, same red cap, very, I think very like ingredient and flavor forward.
Yeah.
And when we came out, it was more like, hey, here's a bold pink flavor bottle. Here's one that's neon green with orange. Like we really wanted to give people stuff that was fun and they could make it their
Mm.
own.
Is there a major like milestone looking back at maybe it was a retail opportunity that resulted in the scaling where you guys could scale the team or scale doors? What's like a major milestone? I mean, launching from 2014 that you can look back on.
I'm a believer that those milestones just kind of evolve. Like there's a
Yeah.
major milestone at the time, and then it's like
Yeah.
what you're going to do next. And that's the mentality we carry into everything. I don't think there's ever been that one moment in time,
For
but
sure.
there were moments that helped keep like us visualizing that we're on the right track. And when we first came out with Raw Organic, we went to a trade show, Natural Products Expo West, and we had this tiny little booth in a corner, and I was basically putting the labels on the bottles the night before, and
Mm.
all of a sudden, a few really cool companies, like a buyer from Facebook's office came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, this bottle is so cute. This formula is so like unique." And hearing that, I was like, "All right, this is the customer we're targeting," and they seem to get it. And there's a lot of other stuff around us, so we were getting a lot of share, mind, and attention for a very
Mm.
small amount of impact as far as what we have actually had at the show. We had like a tabletop and a pull-up sign.
Yeah.
Um, so like that was really cool. And then like as far as like monumental moments in time for the brand, in 2021 when we came out with our newer bottles, that
Mm.
just all of a sudden the brand just started to grow like crazy. And it wasn't that we changed the formula, although we did increase the functionality of it as a result of people wanting more vitamins and other things post
Mm.
COVID, desire
Yeah.
for more functionality. But it was also just, here's this great tasting drink, and now the bottle measured up to everything else we were doing, and that was a really unique moment in time. Since then, it's just been a lot of growth.
Yeah, I would love to talk on that part of the journey. So, I mean, that's directly post COVID is this rebrand. So, in COVID, how did that affect the supply chain for you guys and your bottles? I mean, is that when you switched to D2C, or when did D2C come as well? And what did that look like?
COVID, I think I could speak for myself and probably a lot of other beverage companies, was an absolute nightmare. Not just
Yeah.
because we were all apart from each other, everyone's working remotely, and there was just not as much FaceTime, and everything was difficult. From a supply chain, it was an absolute nightmare. You couldn't get bottles, you couldn't get caps, and when you could get bottles, you couldn't get as many as you needed. If
Yeah.
someone got sick, the co-packer, they'd have to shut down for a full week. It was crazy. We happen to already been working on our transition into the new bottle, though, really in the beginning of like the last bit of pre-COVID.
Mm.
So we partnered with
Yeah.
our unbelievable bottling partners out in California, and that was already in motion. So we knew we had to get through, but we just didn't know how long the get through was going to be. It turned out, I remember in the beginning of COVID, it was this is going to be over by May,
Mm.
and that
Yeah.
that didn't happen. So
Yeah.
I think we had to go further than we thought, but we were already planning without any thoughts of a pandemic. We were already planning to have more of a vertical manufacturing solution in place.
Mm.
So that was really fortunate and good timing, and it helped us a lot. The other thing that happened with COVID was we had just launched a new powder product, and it debuted not only on D2C, but it also had given us interest from QVC, which I
Wow.
thought was just a totally alien channel to everything I'd ever known. I really didn't know much about QVC.
Yeah.
And I went on there right as COVID was starting, and it
Mm.
did really well.
I was gonna say
And
perfect
then
timing.
yeah, their business continued to grow. So it gave us, even through there was the initial pandemic, and then it was a new variant, everyone shuts down again. Through that, we just continually, I was constantly going on TV from remote studios, and it went from selling powders to actually selling our drinks.
Mm.
And it was just an awesome way to create awareness and keep the lights on.
That's incredible. Going into the powders, where did you look for like the R&D for that side? What was that looking like from, I mean, we talked formulating the bottles, but the powders, what made you go that way?
It's kind of like the way we began our conversation. D2C was something that I wanted to be able to get more people to be able to try Roar, and I think it was such a great universal hydration solution. But the
Yeah.
bottle was more restrictive to our ability to really branch out to markets that we didn't have people in. So the powders were really to have a better route for direct to consumer. And they were really just our hydration drinks in powder form. When
Mm.
we relaunched powders and partnered with our new production facility in Pennsylvania, we made the conscious decision to not duplicate our drinks in powder form. So we upped the functionality, brought in different ingredients and different flavors. But
Mm.
it's just a great way for people to be able to get it and bring it with them throughout the day. I think portability and accessibility when you're in an office and there's a water cooler, powder's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Looking at your products today, what would you say overall is the best seller? I mean, D2C and retail, if that skews at all.
The cool thing about Roar is all of our flavors are very much neck and neck, which is something
Mm.
that, from what I've learned through just retail data and talking to our retail partners and our sales team and everyone out in the field, is really an anomaly. Like,
Mm.
usually you've got like a flavor that's number one by a mile. Like Blue Gatorade is the biggest Gatorade by a mile, and then the other ones are down
Yep.
here. With Roar, we have four of our top four flavors are really like within a half a unit of each other on a per units per week basis.
Wow.
So it's always like been neck and neck, like Georgia peach, mango clementine, and now the new strawberry lemonade and
Mm.
cucumber watermelon. They interchange, and that's really cool to see. I think that's just the mark of a really cool
It's
brand,
awesome.
that people are saying, I want to buy four flavors when I go home. I'm not just coming here for my one flavor that I like.
Yeah, that's incredible. Talking on like evolution, what role has that played in new flavor launches? How many flavors have you launched since 2014? Would you say, or
Well,
has it
evolution is
stayed?
like my favorite like piece of advice and word for building a beverage business. In my eyes, it's the evolution of being able to say, like, this company is alive, our product is alive, it needs to grow. Otherwise, you may miss the boat.
Yeah.
So we were constantly evolving flavors. And then when we moved into the new bottles, that put a pause on the evolution of flavors, but allowed us to evolve the bottle, to take plastic out of the bottle, to create these great labels. And
Mm.
at that time, we didn't create new flavors, but we did do a bunch of consumer insight studies coming out of COVID to say, what could we do better from an ingredient standpoint? And what we learned is, where we were always talking about electrolytes and the coconut water in our product, a lot of people were drinking us not at the gym and
Mm.
not after running or before running. They just loved the drink, and they loved that it had vitamins and antioxidants in it as well. So when we launched the new bottles, we decided we're going to own all of those functions in 100%. So we went to 100% daily value of every vitamin we were putting in there. We
Mm.
added more antioxidants, because a lot of the antioxidant drinks out there had like 30% of your daily value of vitamin C, which is not a lot of
Yeah.
antioxidant to be able to talk about. So that was one evolution. And then once
Mm.
we kind of nailed down and got really good at producing our new bottles, is when we started to evolve flavors. So we hadn't launched a new flavor in 2 years, until 2022, when we launched strawberry lemonade, and now
Mm.
we've launched blackberry lemonade in 2023, and we have some new ready to drinks coming out. So now we're able to really lean into new flavors as the demand's increased.
That's incredible. Looking into the future, what do you see that playing for Roar? I mean, you have hydration mixes, ready to drink drinks. Is there anything else in the evolution outside of that, or to continue to evolve with new flavors and different formulations? I mean, what is the possibility there?
It's really interesting right now because we constantly challenge ourselves to talk about what we think our brand could be. We're not just going to innovate for the sake of innovation to
Yeah.
grab more shelf space, because that's something I've seen a lot of brands do and it works for some of them. But for us, we really want to make sure that anything that's new beyond just another flavor is something that we feel like people want to bring from the Roar brand.
Mm.
You know, like I'm not going to come out with a Roar chicken soup. That's just way too
Yeah.
off brand for us. So we're going to
Yeah.
stick to things that we feel like really work for us. So we are looking at some new ready to drink innovation. Um, Maybe in 2025 we'll see something there. Definitely another flavor or two. And then on the powder side, we're able to innovate and test and learn a little easier than with the ready to drink, just because it's a lot easier to produce and
Mm.
in different quantities. So we are playing around with some other functionalities there, some more complete nutrition products. So it's really that's our more direct to consumer innovation route.
Yeah. No, for sure. Kind of wrapping up here, looking at retail compared to your D2C business, how much business would you say skews one way or the other? And what is your retail strategy? How do you select a retailer that fits for Roar?
Well, we always take pride in saying that we're a velocity brand. We think that Roar is a very substance based brand. We're not just looking to do distribution grabs and move on to the
Yeah.
next. So when we came out with the new bottle in 2021, it was a clear strategy to focus on the natural channel, to
Mm.
lean into Sprouts and Wegmans and Whole Foods, and not just get distribution there, but really deliver far above average exit velocities from their shelves. And that's something that we've just done an amazing job of. And truthfully, the team that we've built from a field sales perspective is better than any team I've seen out there. And what we're
Mm.
doing all day long is just hustling for displays at store level, and that's really been a huge part of it. It's just making it so you have to bump into Roar a few times before you walk out that door.
Yeah.
As we've grown through natural, we've also increased our presence now in the conventional grocery channel. But as far as D2C goes, it is the smaller part of our business.
Yep.
You could consider QVC D2C because that's television. So maybe there you'd have an argument because that's become quite large for us. But as far as traditional D2C commerce, that is something we look to continue to grow. But currently, it's very small in comparison to our retail business.
For sure. As we wrap up here, I'd like to hear what is one piece of advice you can share with an entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you learned or regret along the way? What would you say that would be?
I'm always a big fan of telling people to keep blinders on. Uh, there's so much information and such fast paced amount of information available to
Mm.
you when you're starting a business now, and it's very easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing or what the flavor of the month is or the function of the month is, and make you kind of second guess what you set out to do. And it's great to read and learn and know all of that, but I wouldn't let it impact your strategy. Like if you
Mm.
really think you've got something great and you've got the right team behind it and you've seen the acceptance from the really core customers you're going for, then lean in
Mm.
and don't worry about the fact that everyone's saying you should be in this channel or you should add this. I don't think that that's especially when you're small and you don't have the resources. I really feel like
Yeah.
focusing on your goal and believing in your product and yourself, it's going to be really important, because if you are jumping into the beverage business, it is a very difficult, high chance of failure business. So the sticking
Mm.
to your guns and committing to yourself and believing in it is something that's going to be very important to having a chance of succeeding.
Incredible. Well, Roly, thank you so much for joining me today. And to listeners out there, make sure to check out Roar at roarorganic.com.